Welcome to Ram and Goat Astrology. Join Helena and me, Laura Lee, each week as we take you on an explorative journey of astrology and health, reading charts, talking planetary energies, while educating and entertaining you. We help you navigate the mysteries of the stars and how they affect you personally. Here we go. Hello. Welcome to Ram and Goat Astrology. I'm Laura Lee.
And I am Helena. Welcome.
Welcome.
Today is episode 8. And quite interestingly, we are talking about Pluto. And Pluto's home is in the 8th house. So I thought that was funny.
It is. It's
right where it belongs.
Yeah.
Number
Scorpio
8.
is the 8th sign, and Scorpio is the ruler of Pluto. Is Scorpio the ruler of Pluto, or Pluto the ruler of Scorpio?
So Pluto is the ruler of Scorpio.
Okay, there we go.
Pluto is the ruler of Scorpio, yes.
Okay.
That's how it goes.
Yes.
And they belong, their home is in the 8th house. Yeah.
So we are discussing Pluto and Scorpio energy today because it is the month of October. And in America, we celebrate Halloween. In Sweden, you celebrate...
Alla helgonafton.
Say it one more time.
Alla helgonafton, which means All Saints Eve, pretty much.
Yep. Yeah. And then a good friend of mine is Hispanic, and they celebrate Day of the Dead on November 1st. So it's no matter what culture you're in, this time of year is where we celebrate the death and rebirth cycle. And, you know, the trees are starting to lose their leaves in the Northern Hemisphere, and it's just this slow process of shutting down and transformation. And so Pluto is all about that kind of shutting down energy and in anticipation of the transformation.
Yeah.
So we thought it was appropriate to dive into that and help educate people and talk about it a little bit more. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And what book were you? Do you want to show the book you were referring to?
Yeah, we were just talking about this book that I have. It's called The Book of Pluto. It's by Stephen Forrest. We were just discussing the placements because Pluto is our slowest moving planet. It moves through the zodiac in 248 years, I think it is. Mm-hmm. Yeah, 248.
America's having their Pluto return, had that this summer, and some interesting stuff happened. I listened to quite a few astrologers talk about it. I know Jessica Lanyadoo talked about it in her podcast, and the Pluto return really kind of deals with a lot of power struggles because Pluto's this planet of power, and it's got to be focused or it's destructive. And so this power struggle that the U.S. is having right now, whether it's women's rights or migrants or, you know, just everything. I mean, you can name any topic and there's a power struggle.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Pretty much any topic. So it's very interesting to see what is happening and to be alive during this time where the country I'm in is having its Pluto return, and to kind of feel that energy and that actual deep, intense power struggle, because there's a deep undercurrent, which is very much what Pluto rules.
Yeah.
So right now, Pluto is currently in the sign of Capricorn.
Yep.
So we are dealing with that energy of Capricorn. It was retrograde. Did you know that it just went back? Stationary just very recently. Very recently.
Yeah. I noticed that, and I wrote about it a lot, and I'm really in this sort of Pluto vibe right now.
That's fun. Yeah. I'm actually gonna pull up your chart. I have your chart in front of me. We can just pull this up and just kind of look at it here just to see. So right now, so Helena's got her Pluto actually in Scorpio, and it's actually in the 8th house. So you have a very fortunate Pluto placement where it is in its most comfortable home in the most comfortable sign. So yay, you win.
I know, it's a little scary and it's a little cool, I think.
It is. I agree. Yeah. And you just hit the nail on the head. Pluto can be really scary. Yeah, it can be really scary. It's an energy that destroys or creates and it's a light switch. There's no like dimmer
Mm.
in between, right? When it's fall or autumn out, you just know. It doesn't really merge slowly. At least where I live, it doesn't merge slowly. It goes from
Mm.
one season to the next
Yeah.
rather rapidly, and
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
suddenly the garden is done, and there's been a freeze, and everything is just done. Like it's just very,
And it's
very rapid.
unstoppable.
Yep, yep. Pluto is also an energy that's not a visible energy. And it's something, like I said before, it's that undercurrent, right? You know it's there, you can feel it, but it's really hard to describe a lot of times. What is what does Stephen have to say about that in his book, about that
About the
non-visible,
eighth house, or
well, Pluto in general, that non-visible energy?
um, well, he's talking a lot about. He's writing a lot about different stories. He's putting it into context of different life stories, uh, just to show the Pluto energy. And he's basically talking about how, when you have those really deep, hurtful moments, someone dies, or you go through heartbreak, really, really deep, dark, hard, traumatic, transformational stuff. That is Pluto.
Yeah,
And yeah, you can't see it, but you definitely won't miss the feeling. You feel it deeply.
you do.
And I read somewhere that I think is really accurate. Pluto energy is very uncomfortable but very necessary.
Yes, yes. I know this is not even the same topic, but I just went through my Scorpio progressed moon. And we'll do a whole topic on progressed moons, but a progressed moon is a time of your life. And it's almost like an emotional leveling up, and you go through this cycle of energy for 30 months. And I just got through 30 months of this cycle of Scorpio. And during that time, I lost several animals, several very close people in my life. I think all in all, there was about 7 deaths that happened during that 7 month cycle. But I also had my daughter, and I also had a lot of really amazing rebirth things happening, right?
Yeah.
New things happening. But the whole cycle, I want to say for about 25 of the 30 months, I wanted to take like a blanket and just like hide
Yeah.
myself and cover myself and like really like hide under a blanket. Like that was the energy of it. And it was such an intense energy.
It's
And
very
I
intense.
imagine you feel that frequently with your Pluto Scorpio eighth house.
Yeah, I
Placement.
mean, I do, but it's funny because I feel very comfortable with that intensity.
Isn't that
I
interesting?
was, yeah, yeah, um, and I feel like I am always sort of looking. It's almost like I'm not addicted in a way where I'm like manically searching for these emotional highs, but I feel myself very drawn uh, to things that are under the surface.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And I thrive there. I feel, not that I feel very, I just feel very comfortable there. I feel like I'm alive. I feel very alive around
In
platonical
in that power and
things.
intensity.
Mm,
I love that. I love that. And the Pluto energy and Scorpio energy in general is, it's kind of a very shamanic energy. It's got that kind of otherworldly feel to it, right? This
yeah,
tells us that, we need to face our demons to heal. That's really what we have to do. If death is something you're really afraid of, well, then you need to go there. You need to go there. You need to experience death. And
yeah.
this cycle for me during that Scorpio progressed moon was something that was really tough. I lost a sister-in-law at a young age. I lost one of my donkeys who was very young. I
Mm,
lost a dog, lost a grandma, lost a this, like lost a very good friend at a very young age with young kids. Like it was really, really interesting. And I had to really do a lot of soul searching to come to terms with how I feel around death and how that, what my views are and what my beliefs are. And I had to do a lot of changing and a lot of inner work to learn. I don't know if I can say I was learn to be comfortable with death, but really this acceptance
yeah.
with it. And it, oh, man, I'm so glad I'm done with that.
But it's hard. I mean, in I grew up in Sweden, and in our culture, we do not talk about death. It's a very it's something people are very very scared of, and I think it's in a lot of parts of the world it's like that. We don't have a relationship to death. Uh, some people are so scared about dying, and that must be really hard because we all know we're gonna die.
Right.
Everyone will die,
Yep.
and yet we talk so little about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say I definitely was very, very afraid of dying until this last few years. And now
Mm,
I've kind of like I don't want to right now, right? Like I got lots of things to do, but I
yeah.
definitely have a much more accepting attitude about it. And I feel like I've gotten healthier around the whole concept of it. So
Yeah.
I feel like, well, that's something, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I
That's
mean, I feel like if you're scared about death, it must mean that you there's something about your life that you're not that you're regretting or something. I
interesting.
don't know because I don't know. I feel like if you're scared about death, that's really a big part of something to dive into for
It's
yourself.
like a maturing. Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm. But
It's
as
like a
adults, it's a
maturing.
lot of yeah. I guess maturing is not about age.
Because I
Yeah.
think with Pluto in general, there's a it's secrets and it's the underworld and it's that non-visible energy and it's so intense that like I can feel it in my heart right now. I can feel this like almost like an anchor like going down. It feels like it's pulling me under and almost drowning me. And I think that's the feeling people are afraid of. It's
Yeah.
that feeling that they are going to drown with it if they even discuss it or talk about
Mm,
it.
yeah.
It's so
Yeah.
interesting that your culture doesn't discuss it at all.
No. Do you?
I'm trying to think if we do. I grew up Roman Catholic, and I want to say, I mean, we always talked about Jesus dying in general, but it was, um,
that's that's all like connected to just a lot of pain and a lot of
yeah,
like deceit and just
yes,
bad things.
yes, yeah. It was. I don't think it was ever viewed as something that could be celebrated.
Mm,
And now I'm starting to shift that with my children as we attend grandparents funeral and stuff and whatnot. These last few years I've been able to discuss with them like that's not what I want for a funeral. I want to have a party, I want to be
yeah.
celebrated, you better have a band.
Yes.
You better be
For
fun.
sure.
And my Pluto is in the fifth house of fun,
Of
which
fun.
makes so much
You
sense.
should have a party, a funeral party.
A funeral party, doesn't that make sense?
Yeah.
I love it. Well, let's talk about Pluto in the houses for a little bit because I think that makes a really big impact because Pluto moves so slowly through the birth chart. The sign that it's in is very much a generational thing, right? There's a lot of people born around your time who have Pluto in Scorpio. And
Yeah.
that's just what it is. So you were born what year again?
1988.
88. See, my husband was
Yeah.
born just a few months after me in 82, and he's the start of that Pluto Scorpio. So, I mean, that's
Mm.
a big span for people, and it goes until the 90s. So, it's a big chunk of time where people were born with Pluto and Scorpio. So, it covers a wide range of people, but the house placements are where the energy of Pluto will show up in your life.
Yeah.
So the house placements I think are fantastic and fascinating. Every time I dive
Mm.
in, I love seeing how much the chart can change based on the birth time. It can really
For
shift
sure.
everything, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So the houses are sort of decided from where your ascendant is, and from the ascendant, it will go first house, second, third, fourth, and so on.
yeah, yeah. So if you have your Pluto in the first house, what are some
Mm,
words that you would use to describe that?
mm. I'm actually going to use this book that
Oh yeah,
Stephen Forrest wrote and just
in these
read a
books.
little bit from the book.
Perfect.
Um, and he says Pluto in the first house. The first house arena, leadership, personal impact. And the first house pits for Pluto is egoism and power tripping.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see
Yeah.
that. Your first house is ruled by Aries, and Aries definitely can have an ego for sure.
Yeah.
And it's your self-esteem, it's kind of how you show up, right? It's how you show yourself to people. And I can see where you add the power planet, right? Pluto, the power planet, in the first house. I can see where ego tripping would very much be a thing. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know anyone with Pluto in the first house?
I actually have a couple of friends with Pluto in the first house. Yeah.
Do you see this in them?
A little bit. Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
And I do see that that's sort of that the shadowy parts.
Yeah.
It bubbles up sometimes. But if you have Pluto in the first house, you're considered a very Plutonian person because, yeah, the first house is a lot about,
The
it's
self.
sort of an extension of the ascendant.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a
And,
lot of independence associated with the first house,
mm,
and you can't really hide that energy. It's really easy for people to see anything you have in the first house, whether no matter what planet it is. If you have Uranus there, you are going to be an eccentric, chaotic individual. That's just who you are, right? And you
yeah.
can't hide that. If your moon is there, you wear your emotions like you wear clothing, right? Like you just wear them. Everybody can see them. When
Yeah.
Pluto is there and you've got this intensity, you're going to come across as a really powerful and intense person, and you'll
Yeah.
probably be very good at getting your way. Probably very good at
Mm,
getting your way because
mm,
it's that that power that's underlying. When you tell people to do something, people will feel that first house Aries energy with Pluto coming through it, and they'll be like, okay. And they'll be
yeah.
intense and intimidated by you, and they won't even know why. And
Mm.
you won't as the person, the Pluto person, you won't think a thing of it. Like you won't even see
No,
yourself as intense. But everyone else will.
exactly.
So you'll
Yeah.
be good at getting your way. Absolutely.
Yeah. And he also wrote that, yeah, if you have Pluto in the first house, you're very good at seeing the realities that make people feel uncomfortable. And growing up, sort of saying things or acknowledging things that are uncomfortable, people are going to start shutting you down probably
Yeah.
when you're a kid.
Yeah.
And so that sort of becomes your wound also.
Yeah, because you'll be comfortable talking about death and seeing the bird dead on the side of the road as a little
Yeah.
kid, and you'll want to probably as a little kid go up to the dead bird and
Yeah. Yeah.
explore it and pick it up and look at it because you're fascinated with
Exactly.
that just death idea, right? That death
Yeah.
concept, and that weirds parents out.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
It does. It weirds people out in general, especially parents. So parents will go, "Oh no, 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 we don't do that." And then the Pluto
Yeah.
person is like,
Don't touch it.
"But why? I'm
Yeah.
interested in this." So I feel like people who are entomologists who study bugs and things like that, right? This
Yeah.
little creatures that die and all of that. I think it's fascinating that I'm sure their parents were just mortified when they were
Yeah.
little, bringing all the dead bugs home and
You know what I'm gonna do? I want to Google Manson's birth chart.
Oh yes, was I believe our teacher Deborah Silverman had his
Oh,
chart
really?
up in class. She did Dalai Lama, Hitler, and Marilyn Manson. It was fascinating to look at their three charts. It really was interesting. But I think Pluto in the first house, one of the best takeaways I could give as far as advice would be is to recognize that people view you as an intense and powerful person. Doesn't matter if you feel that or not, but people will view you that way. And
Yes.
you may feel like you have to constantly defend yourself that I'm not intense. You are, and it's okay.
Yeah.
You're more intense than most people are, and it's okay.
Quite powerful. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. So recognizing that energy within you and just accepting it and working with it and being careful not to use it as that power trip, right?
Yeah.
And being careful not to use it in a negative way. Pluto in the first house can also get you into big trouble if you are doing underhanded things like illegal stuff or just secretive stuff that you're not supposed
Mm,
to be doing. You can get really like caught up in that stuff
mm.
because it adds to that power play, right? It
Yeah.
adds to that self-esteem in the first house and that power intensity of Pluto. So you got to be careful you don't get caught in the negative, darker side of life. Because
I
that,
mean, if you could use your Pluto first house raw power and mix it in with some humility,
ooh, there you go.
is that possible?
It could be. Hopefully, it's
Could
got
be.
some connections to some good planets.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. No, because I feel I love Pluto.
I do too.
Because it is so intense and it's so magical and yeah, sort of like if you if you're watching like I'm thinking of like movies where you see something crazy, like a wizard doing something crazy or like a witch performing something like that is Pluto power, like just out of this world magic.
Yeah, yeah. Almost like Merlin kind of magic.
Yeah,
Another word that comes to mind with Pluto is obsessions and obsessiveness.
yeah.
That is Pluto in the houses is where our obsessions lie. So you can easily become obsessed with
Mm,
yourself when
yeah,
you have Pluto in the first house.
yeah.
That is something to become very aware of,
Mm,
as it will cause relationship issues.
mm, yeah,
Absolutely. So just I feel like awareness around that one is just
for
crucial.
sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. Should I read what Stephen Forrest has to say about Pluto in the second house?
Yes, please dive in.
All right. The second house, arena, building a basis for self confidence. The second house, pits, under extension due to self doubt.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So having Pluto in the house of your values and your basis for self confidence would mean that you will have some real transformational journeys and inner deaths probably around
Absolutely.
yourself, having to let go of a lot of the stories you have about yourself probably that you have to let go of
Yes.
because you
Yeah.
don't have them right.
Well, and this is the house of safety and values and also our money and possessions. So if you've got this deep destroy and recreate and rebuild, death, rebirth, renewal planet in your house of safety and values, there's probably been a lot of situations in your life where your home life has had to completely restart in some way, shape, or form. Maybe you moved a lot. Maybe you had something, maybe it was a house fire or something like
Mm,
that, where there was this just complete destruction, or you got hit by a hurricane, or what, something very intense and powerful around your home structure and your stability, and
yeah,
probably affected your finances, probably affected your self worth and your possessions, right? So Pluto there doesn't necessarily mean tragedy is going to happen. It just is an energy where it could, and if it does, it's probably going to be intense. And
yeah,
that's the learning process you chose to incarnate with, right? You chose
yeah.
to incarnate with that second house Pluto. And these are the lessons you need to learn. You need to learn to
Mm,
let go of all of the possessions you had, right? Think of all the
mm,
people in California who lose their homes to fires, right? Wildfires, or all of Australia
yeah,
that burned, right? Or the Syrian refugees who lost everything. These people, a lot of these people probably have aspects or Pluto second house stuff, right? That's how that shows up.
mm,
It's not that we want this for people. We're just saying this is
no,
how the energy looks or how it could
mm,
manifest.
yeah,
So, especially with safety, there's a lot of things going on in Ukraine right now. I mean, Iran has got all kinds of stuff happening. So they're probably all experiencing a lot of Pluto second house stuff, whether actual Pluto in the sky is transiting the second house of that country or whatever it is. But that's how those things would show up for sure.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
tough stuff to deal with. That's really tough.
It is Pluto stuff is hard, but as we all know, we do have those things coming to visit us sometimes in life, and at least I feel like when those things have happened, it's been really really hard, really tough, but coming out of it you feel so strong.
Yeah. Yeah. You've been
And that is,
transformed. You've been
yeah,
transformed.
and
Yep.
that is exactly what
Yep.
Pluto wants. It wants us to transform.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And your self-worth is not associated with your possessions or your money, or you know what I
Yeah.
mean, like, so you have to work on that aspect as well, that this self-worth and this how you value yourself and its connection to your things, right?
Yeah.
Rules the second house, and Taurus loves their things.
Yeah.
They love their things, and but that's not who you are. And Pluto wants you to see that. It wants you to
Mm.
see that just because you live in Venezuela and you have to get out of that country and you have to travel to, Peru or whatever, you're not less of a person because you have nothing with you and you had to
Mm.
flee, right? Pluto wants you to go deep and then get under pressure and then emerge in this strong, new, powerful way. It's kind of like getting superhero powers in a way.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. It's like the phoenix rising from the ashes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But I
Absolutely.
mean, you don't see that when you're in it, of
Oh God,
course.
no, no, it just feels awful and terrible and
Yeah.
horrible, pretty much. I know. I'm like, I want to make this better, and I'm like,
Well, it's like death is a part of this life. Is the end of it,
it is.
and night is part of day, and
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, and that's why
every
we have
year
to
we
talk
have a
about
death in
this.
nature. Yeah,
That's why we have to
everything
talk about
dies.
this. You might lose a lot of money in some way, shape, or form with Pluto second house as well. Maybe you gamble it. You probably take some risks with money that maybe don't pan out. Probably stock market stuff or cryptocurrency stuff. Suddenly you lose lots of money. That could be a big thing with Pluto second house too.
Mm.
So if you got Pluto in the second house, just be aware of your home, your structure, your foundation of life, your possessions, your money. Just kind of be mindful
Yeah.
of all of that.
Mm. My eyes were just drawn to a sentence here about Pluto in the second house. Uh, it says Pluto in the second house demands a rite of passage.
It does.
Mm.
And think about what we just talked about. If
Yeah.
your house burns down, that is a rite of passage. Like,
Yeah.
you have been through some shit,
Yep.
and get to you get to level up after that experience, right? So yeah, that is a rite of passage for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
All right.
So if you're born a little bit later or earlier, or whatever, however the houses work, you then have Pluto in the third house. And the third
Ooh.
house is ruled by an air sign, my favorite one, Gemini. And this is intellectual energy, communicative energy. This is how we express ourselves verbally, through words or
Mm.
writing, singing, talking, all of that. It's also the house of siblings and cousins as well. So now we've got the foundation with house number 2, and house number 3 is now where we have those first interactions with the people kind of our own ages.
Yeah.
So what's
Yeah.
Pluto in the third house say?
Oh, the third house pits with Pluto is chaos and verbal viciousness.
Mm-hmm.
Verbal viciousness, because the third house is the house of communication.
I can see that for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
When you put
So,
intensity and power
mm,
and destruction and death into the planet, or into the house of communication,
yeah,
yeah, you're gonna get some.
I'm sure you can burn a lot of people
Oh yeah.
with the way you talk,
Oh yeah. I imagine that.
and yeah, you're probably really good at like getting into people's heads and sort of trying to figure them out, and then saying something about that. Like, you're probably very good at mental games.
I was gonna say the word that comes to mind is manipulation.
Yeah, manipulation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You, especially as a child, you probably figured out how to manipulate your siblings really easily. And if you've got Pluto in the third house, you probably had a lot of power struggles with siblings or close cousins.
Mm,
A lot of intense, like, butting heads kind of energy. I can see that. Oh yeah.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
But on the other side of that, if you have Pluto in this house, you can be a real truth teller. You can be the one who really points out and tells everyone
Oh,
about
exactly.
these things that they don't want to see.
Exactly. And also if you've got this planet of obsessions in the house of writing and communicating, you might be an amazing author and writer and or poet or whatever, and you might love writing on subjects that people don't want to talk about. Sex and death and the occult and hidden
Yeah,
things, right? So maybe you become a journalist or a writer and you write about sex cults, like that would be a very plutonic in the third house thing.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's how you can use that in a positive way. You can still fulfill this inner need, but
Mm.
still have like discover these darker parts of life, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I remember an astrologer once explained to me that Pluto is also like a battery. It works like a battery, like because it has so much power. So yeah, wherever, I mean, we're talking about mostly the shadow side right now, but um, the shadow side is so interesting, and that's what we want to work on, and that's why we're highlighting it.
Of
But
course your Scorpio Pluto eighth house would say that. The shadow's so
yeah,
interesting.
it's interesting. But
Meanwhile,
also,
I'm like,
yeah. But you also view wherever you have Pluto in your chart, see that also as you have, like you have a big battery in that house.
yeah.
So you have all of that power
I like that
from
visual.
that
Visual.
house. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. A battery.
Yeah, you would have some, if you have third house Pluto, you would have some amazing staying power when it comes to being a writer or a speaker or a podcaster or a blogger, whatever, however your choice of communication is. But you'd have some good staying power
Mm.
for sure.
Yeah.
But then when we move into the fourth house,
Yeah.
now we've got some interesting energy because the fourth house is ruled by Cancer, and this is the house of your home and your childhood and how you were parented, and then how you parent as an adult. Even if you don't have children, you still parent things and people, right? So, and nurture. So, if you've got Pluto in the fourth house, every time I do a chart reading and I see
Mm.
people with Pluto in the fourth house, I say, okay, tell me about your childhood because it was really tough, wasn't it? It's just kind of the dynamics of having Pluto in the fourth house of your childhood. There's a lot of tension that gets created between people in the family life, and it can really cause power struggles. I
Mm.
speak from experience. I have actually two of my four children have Pluto, fourth house Plutos. One of them is at the very start of Pluto, of fourth house, and one is at the very end of fourth house. And as a mother, when I was reading about this and learning about this, I was like, oh my gosh, what did I do wrong? Oh god, like why did I manifest children that have this placement, right?
Mm.
Because it does, I mean, cause a lot of subconscious kind of family conflict, family power struggles. And what I realized is we're all very powerful, intense people in our home, and that's just what it is. It's not necessarily abuse. There's not necessarily, anything like that. It's just we're really intense people. And
Mm.
that's just how it shows up in my children's charts. What does the book say about fourth house?
Uh, all right. So the fourth house pits for Pluto is homelessness, the near life experience. I wonder if he means if he when he writes the near life experience, he is referring to the near death, but doesn't want to say the near death. But
Interesting. Homelessness and near life experience.
yeah, but I can imagine, for example, if you have Pluto in the fourth house, and you experience not feeling like you belong places. Maybe someone who moves around a lot at a young age and have doesn't get to know friends well enough, and they never feel rooted anywhere.
Yeah.
That feels like a very Pluto in the fourth house
Yeah.
thing. So
So
you
how
don't.
this shows up for my daughter, who's 9
Mm.
right now, when she was 1, we actually had a family come and live with us. A family of 6 moved
Mhm.
from the south part of the United States, come and live with us. And we were working on starting a community living center on our land. That created this kind of chaosness in her world, and
Mm.
then that didn't end up working out, so they ended up moving out about 3 months later. Shortly after that, we had another family of 3, a mom and her 2 children, come and live with us for 15 months. we had shortly after that a lot of we've had a lot of
Mm.
people cycling through our home, and we had Philip and I had a lot of marriage struggles, I had a lot of health struggles, all during her very early childhood years, like 0
Mm.
to 7. Very, very into, actually it was like 0 to 5. Very intense life that she doesn't really actively remember, but profoundly affected her. And so when I
Yeah,
was
she
reading
sends it.
about this, I was like, oh, that's how that shows up. Okay. There was just a lot of in and out, a lot of people coming and going in her life. Some of them lived here, some of them didn't. She didn't quite know what was going on. There was just people everywhere all the
Yeah.
time, and it was chaos for
Yeah.
quite a while. And so that's how that showed up for her. And I find it interesting when you say like homelessness.
Mm.
We took a lot of people in that were struggling to find homes, but in reality, it almost caused this feeling probably within her that she didn't have her own home.
Mm. Because your home would change then.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm. Every
So I,
time
I can
someone
see
moved
how
in.
that shows up. Yeah,
Yeah. That's really interesting.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, how that dichotomy shows up. But I think it also would make you a very powerful parent. So she's going to be an amazing parent, but she's very powerful when it comes to telling her siblings what to do, and all of that, and parenting everybody, parenting my younger child, that who's younger than her. So I think that obsessiveness of Pluto would make you a really protective and obsessive parent about
Mm.
making sure for safety and all of that stuff, that because this is the
Mm.
fourth house, is home and family, and really really making sure your home is protected. So I can see where you'd be a really intense parent for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe also someone who growing up really finds their tribe, like finds that very important for them to have that tribe that they're part of,
Oh, for sure.
to feel that they always have home.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
Mm.
because that family and that ancestry is so important to them. That's such a huge part of that fourth house, is that
Yeah.
family and ancestry. So
Yeah.
belonging, that absolutely.
Belonging. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we have the
The
fifth house.
fifth house.
I know this
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
I
That's your
know
natal
this
placement.
one. This is my placement. Pluto in the fifth. My firstborn has Pluto in the fifth as well. So I have to talk to him about this frequently.
Yeah.
When you have your Pluto, a planet of obsessions and power and intensity, in the fifth house of fun and play and creativity and
Mm.
children,
Yeah.
you can get really, really lost and obsessive in your creative endeavors, in your fun, the thing that you find fun, right? And the word you used before when we were talking about this was dissipation.
Yeah. Dissipation. That's one of the fifth house pits.
Yeah. So for dissipation, we were trying to figure out, like, what does that look like? What does that mean? And I
Mm.
think it means you get lost in that creative endeavor. Like, I remember when I was in my 20s and we didn't have children yet, and my husband worked third shift, I would do art and my creative stuff till easily 3 or 4 in the morning, and have
Mm.
no idea what time it is. No, like, I would just, like, all time and space would disappear, and I would just completely disappear into that endeavor, which makes sense because that's dissipation.
Yeah.
But also, I had a lot of fertility issues and struggles to conceive. And I think that's a really big thing with Pluto in the fifth house. I was very obsessed
Mm.
with procreation, with making
Yeah.
babies and getting pregnant. But Pluto makes you transform. You have to go through the transformation. And for me, I was not able to have babies. We were even turned down from adoption. We were turned down from surrogacy. Like, we kept trying other ways to have children, and we kept being told no and had the door slammed on us. And we had to go deep and transform ourselves, specifically in the health realm. And both my husband and I had to clean up our diet, get rid of the chemicals and the hormone disrupting chemicals, and then we were able to conceive. But I don't think I fully understood that Pluto energy until later, right after I had my children. But it really made me very,
Mm.
very obsessive with conceiving and with having
Yeah.
children. And then once I had the children, then I had massive power issues and power struggles. Woo-hoo! So much fun.
Yeah, because the fifth house is the house of children, creativity, joy,
Hobbies.
fun stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hobbies, fun, romance, anything creative, procreation,
Yeah.
creativity in this realm, that realm, whatever realm.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I live my life very much in a realm of fun, and if it's not fun, I typically don't do it. And that's Pluto. Thanks, Pluto. It's an interesting placement to have in your fifth house. I can say
Mm.
that.
But also, what about uptightness? Because I do not find you uptight.
With my children. Yep.
You are?
With my children and my art, yes. I'm actually really uptight with my art. I remember being in first grade and I would have really nice art supplies, really nice.
Mm.
And everybody would want to borrow my art supplies because they were nice, right? And I remember going, if you break it, you buy me the exact same kind, the exact same brand, and I don't want any like cheap ones. Like
Mm.
I was really intense about my art, and I remember my teacher even pulling me aside and being like, "We can take it down a few notches." And that's just how it was. All right, so I think that covers the fifth house.
Yeah.
The sixth house. I
Sixth
like this
house.
sixth house. I'm a
You
fan.
like this or
I
you
do.
don't like
I
this?
do. I do like the
You
sixth.
like the sixth house.
Ruled by
Why
Virgo.
do you like the sixth house?
And Virgo energy is an earth energy. So if you've got Pluto there, you've got this Virgo-y grounded energy that is how that obsession comes out or that power comes out. And your sixth house rules your day-to-day work and routine, your daily habits. Also rules your health and small animals, which I think people forget about. And so if you've got Pluto there, you might have an obsession with small animals or rescue work or working in that industry or helping some way, shape, or form with the small animal realm. Habits. What else? Oh,
Well,
being of service to people.
yeah. Yeah.
Being of service. What's the book say on sixth
The
house?
book says the sixth house pits is humiliation, boredom, and shame. I guess because when you think about Virgo, who belongs in the sixth house, Virgo energy is very much of having everything put together. Like before you go out the door, you make sure everything looks just right and your
Perfect.
house looks just so. So I guess
It's quite
it could also
perfectionistic. Yeah.
perfectionist. Yeah. So the shadow side of that could be, yeah, shame that everything isn't the way you want it to look to the world, and humiliation. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, sixth house rules humility. That's definitely part of
Yeah.
that house of being of service, being humbled to be of service to people. So if you don't do something properly, or maybe you have that Pluto energy of intensity, and then you destroy, and then suddenly now you've been humiliated because you destroyed something that maybe you felt you weren't supposed to or wasn't supposed to be
Mm.
destroyed, but in reality that's exactly what you should be doing.
Yeah.
What about like
Uh,
secrets and stuff with the sixth house? How do you see that coming out?
um, secrets in the sixth house. Yeah, because the sixth house is so much of the day to day. So I feel like the secrets that could be hidden here could be quite a lot. It could have to do with you not being honest about uh, the way that you're taking care of yourself. Maybe you're not being honest to yourself about the way you're taking care of yourself or not taking
For
care of
real.
yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
you
can
might be
see
telling
that for
yourself
sure.
that you really, yeah, you're doing everything well, but in reality,
Well, because the power of Pluto has to be focused or it's destructive, right? Like there's not like that dimmer switch. It's either on or off. So you have
mm,
to focus on your health or you could be really destructive to your own
Mm.
health. Maybe you eat
Yeah.
really crappy food all the time, or you don't exercise, and just veg out in front of the TV all the time, and your health starts
Mm.
to go downhill. That's the destructive part. So you have to be focused on it. I know in
Yeah.
my composite chart, when you put two people together and you make a new chart for them, my husband and I, we both have Pluto in our composite chart in the sixth house, which means
Interesting.
we have to work on our relationship every single day. It requires constant work for us.
Yeah.
And it happens to be next to our Saturn, so it's conjunct by 1 degree. So
Yeah.
our relationship requires hard work, it requires time and diligence, and it's a very intense relationship. We are very intense, and we go through a lot of deep transformations. And
Mm.
it's been really interesting to study more of our composite chart together
Mm.
and see what this sixth house Pluto really looks
Mm.
like in a relationship and how that shows up, because we definitely have that either destroy or create energy about us, and we've almost destroyed our marriage, and then we've had to recreate it a couple times, and our fertility issues almost destroyed us, and
Mm.
power struggles between our past upbringing and like our
Yeah.
programming and then who we want to become has definitely caused us to have to transform ourselves in our relationships. So in our composite chart, the sixth house Pluto plays a really big role, and it requires day-to-day action, day-to-day work and routine, and we have to constantly check our power struggle between
Mm.
us. It takes a lot of work. It really does.
Yeah. And I feel like from what I've heard that you do incorporate health a lot in your life, like every single day. Health is a huge part of your family.
It is. It has to
Mm.
be. I mean, it's
Yeah.
the reason we were able to conceive our children.
Yeah.
We've both, Philip and I have both had mental health stuff, physical health stuff, and health has been a huge undercurrent of our relationship. That's funny. I
Yeah.
never used that word before. Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you brought that up because it has been the main foundation of our relationship. And we're actually shifting again right now. Saturn, actually, Pluto in the sky is square to Pluto in our composite charts. So we're
Oh,
getting this
interesting.
energy and the supportive energy of the square to help us redo and transform our health. So my husband's been on a nutrition change for the last 3 to 4 months, where he has been going grain and sugar free. He's been doing fasting all the time. He's been teaching himself qigong, which is a form of tai chi. I have been doing meditations more often. I've been doing daily meditations, daily yoga. I'm eating differently because I'm pregnant, but we both garden and can our own food, so it's a really big daily work that we have to do to transform our health. And
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely, that's a big part of it.
Yeah. I feel like also with Pluto in the sixth house, because the sixth house is so health related, that you could either become very sluggish about your health, or you could become too obsessed. Like the person who goes to the health store and gets. Oh, you look guilty.
Yep, the obsessiveness has shown up a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
Mm,
It has
yeah,
actually caused problems within our relationship because of the power obsession that happens and that develops, right? Like I view health this way, he views health this way, and we have to learn how to kind of come to this happy medium of what health actually
yeah,
looks like. But the
yeah, yeah.
obsessiveness and that Virgo quality of like perfectionism definitely
Mm,
has showed up for us.
mm. Well, it's all about that happy medium, and using Pluto as your big battery in your daily life
I love
with
that.
health and everything. Yeah.
And
So
I
you
think
can
now that
transform your health, which you have. You
yeah,
have transformed your health.
and now that we're maturing, I turned 40 in
Mm,
March and he's turning 40 in December. And I think now that we're maturing, and with Saturn right there next to our Pluto, that's father time, right? And that requires maturing. I think we're finding that happy medium that, 80% of our health, our routine should be focused on health, and 20% we can have some leeway and some flexibility.
yeah.
That's the important part. So, anything else on sixth house Pluto?
No, I feel very excited to move into the seventh house because it just feels like a. I mean, Pluto anywhere is a huge lesson, chance to transform. But I just feel like Pluto in the seventh house feels extra much. Maybe because my seventh house is so big, so the seventh house plays a huge part in my life. But so, because the seventh house is about relationship, intimacy, trust, partnership,
And
and
business contracts, one-on-one
yeah,
contracts and
one
negotiation,
on one. Mm-hmm.
and in general, just
And
cooperation.
yeah, exactly. It's where Libra belongs in the seventh house.
It,
And
I think this is where we start to see some intense power struggles with Pluto.
yeah, yeah, because the seventh house is so much about relationships, so that will put either probably yourself, yeah, either you or the other person in the relationship. There will be like a very often this power struggle between you and any other person in your life that you have a relationship with.
Yes.
And Stephen says about the seventh house pits. Um, so the pits are emotional isolation and constant interpersonal drama.
Constant interpersonal.
Constant interpersonal drama.
I can see that. Libra is so focused on the other person, right? When you've got lots of Libra energy, my Pluto's in Libra, so I feel like I really get this.
Yeah.
Make decisions based on the other person before you make decisions based on yourself. And
Yeah.
so that constant interpersonal drama develops because your power is almost being given away. You're giving away your own power because of the sign or the house that it's in. So it can be really, really tough to have that drama and not know what's causing it, not know why.
Yeah.
Right? And
It's just that underlying, like, what did you say? The undercurrent.
it's the
Having
undercurrent.
a undercurrent of constant interpersonal drama.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I also can see a lot of secretive issues here. I can see possibly some infidelity issues here,
Yeah.
or maybe some underhanded business tactics if you're working one on one with business partnerships. Maybe some contracts that were not written properly or left
Mm.
omitted certain stuff, right? This
Mm.
is where you would want to be very diligent about having all of your
For
T's
sure.
crossed and your I's dotted and make sure you read all of the fine print before signing any contracts. Because again, Pluto rules secrets and
Mm.
intensity, and things will blow up if they're not done the right way, in
Yeah.
that healthy creative space. So I think this is where you can see a lot of divorces, not necessarily equals divorce, right? Just like in the second house, it doesn't mean your house is going to burn down,
Mm.
but it does mean some probably intense drama of some way, shape, or form. And when it's in the house of marriage and partnership, well,
Yeah.
you've got other people involved.
Mm.
You're probably going to attract some Plutonian people as well.
Yeah.
So we'll have that power struggle there.
Mm. So you might attract someone with with the Pluto first house,
Right?
for
For,
example.
for real. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would
Pluto energy is
be
tough.
that would be fairly common, or a I would say, I don't want to say normal because there's not anything normal, but there's an energy that would be pretty typical would be to attract somebody with a first house Pluto if you have a seventh house Pluto. And then you would have this constant shifting power dynamic back and forth and back and forth. And
Yeah.
it would become either A, very exhausting, or B, you learn to use that battery and grow together
Yeah.
if you're mature.
For sure. For sure. But I mean, like always, it takes two to tango. So hopefully the other person also will see their Pluto and work with it and use it as a battery instead of dragging it down to the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Exactly.
But it's interesting also that Stephen says emotional isolation, so that the pitfall of having Pluto in the seventh house, the house of marriage could be that you isolate yourself.
I can see that.
Mm.
Libra needs alone time to create that balance and to be able to discern how they feel without that other person influencing them. And with Pluto there, I can see how it would make you feel like you're emotionally isolated, even though you're not. But that intensity is so strong that it can make you feel like you're just all alone and nobody understands you, even though it's in the house of other people, right?
Yeah.
I could see that for sure.
Mm.
I don't know of any particular situations offhand, but I can see that manifesting and ultimately leading to the ending of a relationship, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
If you're not able to communicate that effectively.
Yeah. I actually have Pluto in the 7th house according to the whole house system.
Okay.
If you do the whole house system, which neither of us do,
Right.
but if we would, because some astrologers use that, Pluto would fall in the 7th house, and I do attract a lot of Plutonian people. So I don't know, like sometimes, yeah, the house systems, I'm not so sure about them. Like I think it's just a personal choice which one you feel the most drawn to.
Right.
But here with Pluto, personally, I feel like I fall in both the eighth and the 7th house with some things.
I think the whole house system is very neat and organized, and
Mm.
it starts at the beginning of the sign, and it each sign fits very nicely, and each house is the same size, and that's sweet. But
Not life.
that's not how life is. Life
Yeah.
isn't cut and dry like that, and it isn't clean and organized like that. I think whole
No.
house system is a nice way to start astrology,
Mm.
but it's not necessarily the most accurate when it comes to understanding the multidimensional aspects and the
Mm.
blending of energies.
Yeah, yeah.
That's my opinion.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. I mean, my personality is not a cake cut into 12
Equal
exactly
slice.
equal slices. No, it's
No,
not.
no, we're all blended very, very nicely. Some people are equal and laid out like that, and
Mm.
that's just how theirs is, but not many of ours.
Mm.
No, not many of
But
ours.
maybe I just had a thought because, like I said before, my 7th house is very big. It covers 3 signs,
Mhm.
and I have I have a strong Pluto energy because I have Pluto in Scorpio in the 8th house. So being very Plutonian and having a big 7th house, maybe then it could also show itself there because that's through my personality.
Oh,
So
yeah,
that might be why I recognize some of the things here.
yeah, that makes sense. That makes
Could be.
sense
Yeah.
for sure.
Um. Yeah. Laura.
In the eighth house, this is its happy home.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. And do you think we should make this a 2-part,
We
like the
certainly
moon?
can do that. Yeah,
Because we're only at the 7th house and we're sort of running out of time.
I was gonna say we're right about that hour. Yeah, why don't we
Yeah.
go ahead and do that?
Should we
And
do that?
we'll we'll do a part two series
We'll do a part 2,
if we like to
and maybe,
chat.
yeah, maybe we should release both of them sort of before Halloween, Samhain,
I like that.
so you all can hear about your wounds, about your
Your
Plutonian
intensity,
powers,
your power struggles, and your
your
battery, and your
characters. Yeah,
undercurrent.
and you can use all of your holiday to think about that.
Right?
Yeah.
I love it. Well, thank you for listening to our Pluto chat today, and we'll be back with part two.
Yeah,
Thank you
we
for joining
will.
us.
See ya.
Thank you for tuning in. If you would like to be a part of our show or have a personal reading done with us, email us at ramgoatastrology@gmail.com. We can't wait to hear from you. See you next week.